on Doctrine and Covenants, section 115, um, verse 4, with the prophet Joseph Smith at Far West, Missouri. They were talking about building up that place. And I was wondering if uh, Alicia, do you have that you could read for us?
Mhm.
Thank you.
For thus shall my church be called in the last days, even the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Awesome. And I want to couple that with some scriptures in the Book of Mormon. If we could go to Third Nephi and in Third Nephi, um, chapter 27, um, the Nephites have just asked for direction because there were disputations about what the church should be called. And in Third Nephi 27, verses 5 and 6, this was Christ's response to them, much like the verse that we just read. Linda, would you be good to read 5 and 6?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have they not read the scriptures, which say, "You must take upon you the name of Christ, which is my name, for by this name shall ye be called at the last day. And whoso taketh upon his name endureth to the end, the same shall be saved at the last day."
Thank you for reading those,
Yeah.
both of you. I appreciate that. Um, so Christ comes and, you know, both times to Joseph Smith and to the Nephites, um, tells us what he wants his church to be called. What is the significance of that? And what does that mean? Um, what is maybe for our lives, like when it comes to us taking upon the name of Christ? What are your thoughts about that? I mean, Melissa, do you have thoughts relating to?
Yeah. So my thought is that, you know, we, our whole focus is on Christ. And if we have our church have his name, we are remembering him. We are signifying that he is the foundation that the church is built upon and that he is the organizer and the embodiment of church and what we believe in and how we should be living our lives.
I appreciate that, Melissa, especially when you mentioned that he wants us to remember him. And I want you to think about when you're in your day-to-day life, um, what are some ways, or not some ways, but just can you think of how remembering him has maybe changed you in a way throughout the day? Um, Maybe Lisa,
How,
if you have any thoughts, or
oh, sorry.
Well, maybe sometimes at work and we get upset with, maybe upper management or something and starts gossiping, I should say backbiting. And then if you're remembering about the Savior, it kind of like, okay, we need to stop this and be a little more kind.
and then Melissa, you were going to say something too that I I heard you say.
You're good. For me, just like remembering what I'm supposed to be doing, how I'm supposed to be acting every single day, how, what, thinking about how Christ would treat these people that come within my path.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing just with my work because I'm in a helping field. Yeah, in a helping field. That's what I do for my job. And I know when I am more focused on the Savior and try to, um, yeah, just like Lisa was saying, treat others kindly, treat others the way the Savior would be treated, even when I have really hard families who are hard to, hard to love, But if I um I would say come at it, I think like President Monson has talked about, which is very Christ-like, the his quote of never let a problem to be solved be more important than a person to be loved. And so that, yeah, I have caught myself because, everyone has their bad days, but I know when I'm trying to be like the savior and treating those that I come across and come into my path, come into my everyday life in the way Christ would treat them. I know our bonds become deeper. It makes it easier to work with the families. They're more open when they do have problems because I work with such diverse populations.
I have that same like in working with somebody came up to me that was a little scarier than you know, maybe I'm a little bit agoraphobic when it comes to like traveling to new places, and I have to think to myself, well, is Christ a fearful person and a timid person? It's like, no, he loves everyone, and if we like, have fears, those aren't necessarily coming from the Savior because um he was courageous when he went up to people. And Alicia, do you have any thoughts about how remembering Christ has helped you in your day to day?
One of the ways how, well, I was actually just reading in the third Nephi because I decided to read a couple of verses past that. And he actually mentions that if a church be called in Moses' name, then it be Moses' church. Or if it be called in the name of man, then it be called the church of a man. But if it be called in my name, then it is my church. So I think it is a very poignant thing that he has made it very clear that he is at the helm of everything that happens within the organization. It's not the prophet's church. It's not Joseph Smith's church. It is his church. And he guides and directs, absolutely everything that happens. I think sometimes, when we do go throughout our day to day, we sometimes forget that aspect. We have to be constantly reminded that he's what's guiding what's happening in our lives, even if it's something as simple or complicated in this case is moving from one location to another, like what I'm currently experiencing. But I mean, we just got a brand new first presidency, and that is probably one of those key things that you just realize, he is at the helm of, his church because only he can pick, the right people for those positions to, continue to receive the proper revelation for all of the members of the church. Because I'm sorry, I don't receive revelation for anybody other than myself. I just don't. And we need the proper people with the proper authority to, continue to receive that revelation for us. I think just trying to remember that, it is all in his plan. It is all in his timing, even in the little things. Sometimes I do forget. I think we're all very forgetful, honestly, in, remembering, Christ in our lives. But I think we sometimes go through the day to day, and it isn't the first thing in our minds. And we have to kind of take that step back every so often and be like, wait, why am I complaining about this again? Wait, why am I getting upset about this? There's nothing I can do because this is part of God's plan for me. This is part of Christ's plan for me. I think when you take that step back, whether it's at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, or every once in a while in the middle of the day, that's kind of when I think we remember it best. That, we are part of his church, which means he's at the helm of the church, and he's, the one who's in charge of what's happening in every single aspect of our lives. Whether we are regular in, turning to him or not, he is always there. I always forget that, it's like, even when stupid little things happen that may like really make me super upset, it's like, I can't be upset because this is all part of God's plan. And I just have to take that step back every so often, just remind myself it will all work out because God and Christ know exactly where I need to be, what needs to be done. And I think that's the most comforting thing, because any other thing that happens, I think words are not good. But if I were to put myself in like the shoes of relatives who aren't members of the church, I feel like I would have such a hard time in life being in their shoes. It just brings a lot of comfort to know that we do have such a wonderful person, because he is a person, and he, is at the helm of this church, and he's at the helm of every single aspect of our lives. I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop right there.
Well, you guys are amazing. Thank you for giving 10 minutes of your time to me today.